Sorry for the operator error. I hope you're enjoying your dinner. And dessert. So want to first of all thank our Board of Trustees who are with us for the spring meeting. A very engaged group. So if you'd join me in a round of applause for our trustees. One of the trustees who we're going to honor tonight, Marlon Miller, has served on our board since 1970. And he helped underwrite 3 Emeriti presidents working with us over the last 7 or so months to help us with strategic planning. And these 3 presidents had all moved the needle at their respective institutions. And they shared these words of wisdom for meetings. And they said the main thing is to always make sure the main thing is the main thing. And so we took it to heart. The board took it to heart. The management team took it to heart. When we had the winter board meeting a few months ago, we brought 3 components to the main thing to the board. The main thing at Alfred, we said, was enrollment, was student retention, and then investing in people beyond the investments in students, the faculty, staff, as well as the alumni outreach and the outreach to friends of the university. Marlon Miller, our students are too young to probably remember these ads, the Dean Witter ads, where everybody grew quiet when Dean Witter was going to speak. Marlon, E.F. Hutton, sorry, E.F. Hutton, thanks for the correction. With Marlon, he's not known for having the most words at board meetings, but when it comes to measuring impactful words, everybody listens. And in the context of the winter board meeting, he said, well, it really boils down to one thing, the student experience. And if you do that well, everything else will kick into place. Student enrollment, student retention, taking care of your faculty, staff. So we took that to heart for the spring meeting. We're in the process right now for searching for our first ever vice president for student experience. That also played off of that insight. It used to be the vice president for student affairs. It just seemed clunky, too bureaucratic. We wanted to signal with the name change, and even we looked, should it be of or for? And we chose for because it has more of an advocacy connotation. So first, I want to recognize the individuals who are serving on the search committee. We're down to the finalists right now. We have an internal search committee. Beth Ann Doby, our provost, will have her stand and remain standing. Jonathan Kent, who's our vice president of enrollment management. Shelley Frein, who's on our College of Business faculty. Cassie McCarn, who's one of the leaders in our student advising efforts. And Samuela Tafour, who's a junior. Rising senior. So please join me in thanking them. And we also have 4 trustees that have put in an immense amount of time as part of the trustee advisor committee. Eric Zuckerman, you can stand too. Kristen Klaben. And then 2 who are in absentia. One is Michael Christakis, who's the head of enrollment management student affairs at University of Albany, and Michelle Cohen. And in addition, Greg Connors, our board chair, Carolyn Clark, our vice chair, and then also Steve Hine have been putting in an immense amount of hours to provide us additional perspective. So we're incredibly grateful. They impressed all the candidates with how committed. Stand up. So while it's a deep pool and the decisions have been hard, we also feel a lot of pressure in the search because the most recent search that we did before this was incredibly successful. And would like to thank Mark Lewis for leading the search and invite him up to the podium.
Thank you, Mark. So with us tonight on the search committee for the Vice President of Advancement, Angie Taylor. Stand up, Angie. All right. Our Olympian track and field and Danny Gagney. Danny. There's our colleagues. Ann Cornell and Tim Gage are not able to be here tonight, but they served on the committee. Our trustees that helped us and put a lot of effort into it, Terry Galanis, and Brian Hill. And in addition, stand up again, Greg Connors, Carolyn Clark, and Steve Hine also helped with that. And our successful candidate, Aaron Martinovich.
So I had to write notes because it's pretty humbling to stand up here as your new Vice President of University Advancement. I am in my 5th month. I have said to a number of people, this has been the best 5 months of my professional career. So to all of my trustees and to my faculty, my staff, my friends, my colleagues, thank you for trusting in me. I'm delighted to be here. Not about me tonight. I'm really humbled as a newcomer to the Alfred community to be standing in front of you to honor an Alfred legend. It was only 6 weeks here in my role at Alfred that I was able to travel to Pennsylvania to meet with the legend himself. And I remember walking into Marlon's home and being amazed by his art, by his kindness, by his presence, by his stature. You're very tall. Not. But I was also really moved by the fact that Marlon, from the moment that I met him, talked about the fact that for him, it's not about him, it's not about anything, but it's about the students. We have a number of students here tonight who actually have been impacted by Marlon, and again, it's all about the students for Marlon. So I'd ask our Marlon Miller Scholarship recipients, our Marlon Miller Outstanding Award winners, and our Faculty Senate presidents to please stand. Marlon sat at lunch with us and he said, we were talking with him about this experience, and we said, this is momentous. I mean, you've been with us on the board for 52 years, and you've changed the footprint of the Alfred community, and how can we celebrate you? And Marlon said, please make it about the students. That's really what it's about. Unfortunately, Marlon, we slightly disagree. So, beyond the hundreds, and I mean hundreds, of scholarship recipients and award winners who bear Marlon's name, and the investments you've made to the footprint of the Alfred community, your legacy is expansive. Your mentorship, your generosity, your kindness has touched countless faculty, staff, students, colleagues, friends. I see some very close friends of yours tonight at the table. Please join me tonight in celebrating 52 years of a legacy.
Nestled away near the Empire State Hills, 'neath the watch care of centennial pines, where the murmuring song of the brook hums along, and the favoring sun ever shines. In a valley so fair where the forest trees share dominion o'er hillside and glen, stands the pioneer college of Western New York. Alfred, we hail thee again. Hail to thee, Alfred. Spirit, thou guide of our youth, sweet benign Mother, all hail, all hail. Sing out thy anthems of duty and truth. May thy clear ringing music ne'er fail.
Marlon, you are generous.
Marlon, you forever changed Alfred.
Marlon, you are an institution.
Marlon, you are appreciated.
Marlon, you forever changed Alfred through the creation of the Miller Performing Arts Center with its incredible theaters, gallery, and teaching and making spaces. And we appreciate your support of the programming and curriculum by funding dynamic artists from around the world to come to Alfred to perform, create, and educate. Your vision changes lives.
In the score of the musical Man of La Mancha, Don Quixote sings the word impossible. The now famous lyric is, to dream the impossible dream. Marlon, you always made the dream for me an improbable one. Not impossible, because you always made it possible, no matter how improbable it seemed to me.
Marlon, you've been an enormous contributor to the school, not only financially, but for your sage advice, your guidance, and your thoughtfulness. I know you'll have another 100 years to watch Alfred grow and expand. But in the meanwhile, thank you so much for all you've done for the school.
Gotta tell you, your notoriety is firmly established for being a man with a big heart, and I want to let you know how much you've helped the hearts of the family Pullman. My brother-in-law, Paul, got a stint in his heart, that hospital in Reading that you tricked out so nicely. And Paul's heart is ticking thunderously.
Marlon, you have forever changed Alfred by your phenomenal stewardship of this institution. And when I say stewardship, I don't mean only your amazing financial gifts, but the sharing of your countless hours of time and the sharing of your business acumen and talent. The essence of this stewardship, though, has always been your gentlemanly, quiet wisdom that we've all known and experienced. Thank you, and all the best.
Hi, Marlon. My name is Mingchen Wang. I'm senior in art and design major. The financial assistance you provide me with a great help for my education expenses. Your generosity has inspired me to help others and pay back to the community.
Marlon, you have helped me further my education in communication studies and film studies, something that I have found my passion in and which I will pursue in my future. You have also helped me in creating lifetime relationships that I will have with the colleagues here, with staff, with all my friends, and I'm so grateful for the relationships that I will have with them outside of Alfred.
Marlon, you helped me begin the journey towards being the artist that I always wanted to be. Your scholarship changed the idea of studying arts 1,000 miles away from home, from impractical and unaffordable to possible. Thank you for helping me live my dream.
Marlon, you helped me make it to Alfred. You gave me the opportunity to study both ceramic art and ceramic engineering. Thank you.
Marlon, you forever changed Alfred by being you. Your authenticity is truly inspirational. I have learned so much from you while being on the board, and you continue to amaze me each time you share your perspective.
Marlon, one word that best describes your character is integrity. What an incredible honor it has been to have gotten to know you over the past several years. You are a true gentleman that I can only hope to emulate in life and as a fellow trustee.
Marlon, I have so many wonderful memories of my time on the board with you. Because when you spoke, I felt like I was in the greatest business class I could be in, with the greatest professor. I promise you, those lessons will stick with me forever. It's been an honor to serve with you.
Marlon, when I think of you, I can't help but thinking of the movie It's a Wonderful Life and how much different Alfred University would be today were it not for your deciding to join us, were it not for Dean McMahon offering to take your family on a tour that motivated that decision and the mentoring he provided to you along the way. Thank you for the wonderful life you yourself have lived, the inspiration that you've provided to so many, and the ways you've impacted by investing in education here at Alfred University, the lives of so many already past generations of students, employees, and generations to come. Fiat Marlon.
Thank you. Well, I knew that Mark had said he wanted to do something to just honor as many years as I spent, probably too many, but this is unbelievable. I don't know, I can't react to this. I'm truly speechless. I think it's just phenomenal to hear all of you talk about how you have appreciated my participation with you. Actually, I'm the one with the good fortune because the opportunity to be here at Alfred and serve Alfred for 50 years has been incredible for me. I've said this before, I frequently felt when I got in my car in Pennsylvania and drove 4.5 or 5 hours up here that I was really going on a vacation. And that was because it took me away from everything else and I could just start thinking about Alfred. And so it has been sort of a true labor of love, being involved with so many wonderful trustees before you and all of you. It's been probably the high point of my life, really. And so therefore it's been very easy to give back, do whatever I could do for this place, because it's certainly shaped my life in incredible ways. And those stories you've heard already, I don't want to repeat them all, but John McMahon was very influential, but a name that wasn't mentioned tonight was Fred Gertz. And he was the Dean of Men at the time that I was the Student Senate President. And we had a lot of things going on here on the campus, like one night, an explosion that shook up the whole community. And it was one of our students who put dynamite under a bathtub up on Pine Hill and blew the bathtub way up in the air and it came down near the Theta Chi sorority. And so, the issues of how to deal with those kinds of things in terms of a disciplinary manner and so forth, I learned a lot from him as well. And to his tribute, he was obviously asked not to come back for the next semester. However, he was not expelled. He was said, if you want to come back here a year from now and really be serious about your education, we'll welcome you back. So that was Alfred also, knowing how to really deal with people who every now and then go off the deep end for one reason or another. But, you know, it is a remarkable institution that you're all a part of, and I've been privileged to be a part of for a long time. And I think, sitting with Wayne tonight, he said, you know, you have to keep telling these stories. Each of you have stories about what was important to you here. And these stories are what come out and motivate others and to think about what they could be helpful with in terms of this university. And I would just leave you with one thought, and that is that the most significant thing to me this evening was the opportunity to sit down and talk with all of these students that were here tonight that came here on scholarships that I was able to provide. If there's any one thing that's the most satisfying in terms of working with people, is to give scholarship aid, because each one of them said in their own words how they would not have been here, they would not have had the Alfred experience, they wouldn't be thinking about the things they're thinking for in the future if it weren't for that scholarship. They just could not have been here. So to have that kind of influence on somebody's life is probably the most meaningful thing that I feel that I've done, and I think that any of us could do as trustees. So thank you so much for this tribute. I don't know what else to say in words. I'm very pleased that a lot of you have enjoyed having some time with me as much as I've enjoyed having time with you. And I appreciate the evening very much. Thank you.
So you saw a handful of voices, but there are hundreds of voices that would really like to share their thoughts with you. So we are delighted and honored to share with you the notes to Marlon. This is a collection of individuals who just simply wanted to share with you the impact that you've had on their lives, with your mentorship, with your generosity, with your kindness, with your leadership. And we are delighted to share this with you.
Wow, that's fantastic. What a memo of this evening. Thank you. Thank you very much. Boy, thanks so much.
And in the great words that the game shows, but wait, there's more. Again, in the keeping of Marlon's humbleness, we could have had any number or any dozen or any 100 of individuals come up to speak and share how meaningful Marlon has been in their lives. But we decided that we would focus on one voice. And this is a voice of a 2-time Faculty Senate president, which is clearly near and dear to Marlon's heart, someone who is a Marlon Miller runner-up, but should have been an award winner, in my humble opinion. But someone who, I hope I don't embarrass him, but you know, the trustee meetings, and with so much gratitude for the amount of time that you invest in our institution, we know it's incredibly impactful and meaningful. The person we're going to invite to speak was on the fence. It's a very busy time for them. But then I said, but would you be willing to speak on behalf of Marlon Miller? And they got on a train. I'd like to welcome Matthew Washington to speak a few words.
Thank you, Erin. I've got to say, this is an unusual moment right now. I'm like the opening act, and the headliner is supposed to come after the opening act. But when I saw Marlon walking up, I was like, oh God. And so Marlon got up to the podium, and Marlon said, I don't know what to say. And I said, thank you, God. But then Martin took over the crowd, and so here I am, the opening act after the headliner. But, you know, talking about Marlon's legacy is truly an honor. As Aaron said, it was difficult. I had a conversation with Mary McAllister last week, early in the week sometime. I said, Mary, it's a little bit difficult. I don't think I can make it. I'm so busy. I have so many things. I'm probably going to have to be in Alfred for a week and a half if I'm going to make the board meetings. And we talked about it, and I was about to send Mary and Lisa an email to say, I'm not going to make it. There's just too much going on. I had a million meetings. And probably 10 minutes before I was going to send that email, Aaron sends me an email and says, Greg and I were talking, and we want you to speak on Marlon's legacy. Now I said I have to restructure my entire life because how could I not come and speak about the legacy of Marlon Miller? And so I did. I canceled a meeting this morning, but I still needed to work, and I said the only way I can do it is if I take the train. And so I got on the train at 7 o'clock this morning, and I'm not a morning person, so it was difficult to get on the train that early. But I had to be here for Marlon to talk about Marlon and Marlon's legacy. And we heard so many wonderful words, and one word that I think about for Marlon, and one word that resonates with me is humble. And he's truly such a humble man and such a gracious individual. And what better way than to tell stories? You know, I had the fortunate pleasure of serving with Marlon on the trustees. I mean, he really does it, and I just sort of pretend. But we're in the same group, and I feel honored by that. But I met Marlon as a student. And I'll never forget, it was my sophomore year. I was involved in Student Senate. I was elected president, so I got to go visit the trustee meeting. And I got to go to the trustees and meet some of the trustees and had a great time meeting the trustees. And I remember afterwards I was talking with a friend and just talking about going to meet the trustees. And so she said, oh, did you meet Marlon Miller? I said, yeah, he's a great guy. And I was like, but how do you know Marlon? And she said, Miller Performing Arts. And I was like, that's the same guy? And so I had no clue. And then for the next week, I proceeded to tell everybody who Marlon Miller was and that I got to meet him. And it was wonderful. And I think about the Performing Arts Center. I think about Miller and everything that happens there. And I think about the opportunity that you gave so many students to pursue their dreams. I think about so many of my friends who continue in that legacy. But I also think about my own experience. Dr. Lance laughs at me as her worst string student ever. You know, I remember growing up, and you know, we grew up very poor. I always thought that the violin was a great instrument. I always wanted to play the violin. I thought the piano was great. And who didn't want to be an actor on every movie that you could see? And I had the opportunity to take a strings class with Dr. Lance, and I said, I want to play the violin. I've always wanted to do it. I'm going to give it a try. And she looked at my hands and she said, your hand is probably too big for the violin. Why don't you try viola? And I tried, and I was terrible. But she would pat me on the head, good job, Matthew, you tried. And I took acting class, and I said, you know, I'll try acting, it's great. Who doesn't want to be an actor? And I would study my lines, and I would freeze every time. And I was terrible. And I was terrible in acting class. And I took piano, and it's a beautiful instrument, but I made it sound horrible. And so I was terrible. And so I think, you know, what's important, and you might say, why are you telling these ridiculous stories? But as a child, I had a dream of trying these things out. And because of your investments, Marlon, I had the opportunity to try and realize they weren't for me. And that's okay. And it's okay to know that something isn't for you. But if you hadn't given me the opportunity to try, I might still be dreaming what could have happened, what should have happened, instead of realizing that that wasn't the path for me. And so I thank you for that. I thank you for investing in so many of us, investing in the opportunity for those who did become professional artists, but for those of us who needed an opportunity to try it out, to say that I gave it a try, and I don't have any regrets for not trying. And that's because of you, and I'm grateful for that. And I remember, Marlon is class of 54. I'm class of 2004, along with Gabby. I see you. And so it's 50 years apart. So I remember the summer of Marlon's 50th reunion, and you may not remember this, but it was on the brick lawn. There was a luncheon that was happening, and you and a good buddy of yours from 54 also, Al Palladino, who's no longer with us, but a great man and somebody who I cherish to this day still. But you and Al were standing together, and I remember an announcement happening that the class of 54 had been the most generous to Alfred University at that point. And I walked up to you and Al, the two of you were standing together. I was some kid, I had, just found out I didn't get a job that I'd applied for. But I saw the two of you, and I had met you before, and I looked at you both, and I said, in 50 years, the class of 2004 is going to beat the class of 54. And yeah, Gabby, we got a lot of work to do. Yeah, right. And Marlon could have laughed it off, Al could have laughed it off, but Marlon didn't. Marlon simply said, "That's great." And it wasn't to blow me off, it was to really encourage me to go for it, to really encourage me to try, because he believed that it's possible. He, as a humble man, doesn't see himself as so great. He just sees that he has an opportunity to do the right thing, and Marlon always does the right thing. And your example has been incredible for me to watch, to learn, to see that you just care. Mark talked about it earlier, that you don't say all of the words in the room, but the words that you use are thoughtful and impactful. And so the impact that you've had on this university, the impact that you've had on my life personally is immeasurable. And so I thank you for that. I thank you for being a man who cares deeply about others. You don't have to know them. And you also care about the legacy of others, the countless friends and colleagues and professors who you have created or invested in scholarships for their names to be remembered is a powerful example. And so thank you for helping me realize that Broadway and the silver screen will never be for me. But I love what I do, and I have no regrets about not trying to be in the big stage. And so Marlon, thank you for having a legacy that will go on forever. And thank you for inspiring a 21-year-old new graduate to reach for the stars and to try to accomplish a bit of some of the things that you've accomplished. So thank you for being an inspiration to me, Marlon.
Matthew, thanks for those and for joining us and being able to balance everything with the train ride here to upstate New York. Our promise to our students, to prospective students, is that we'll help them realize their promise. Just thinking back, Dean McMahon, when Marlon and his family were visiting, the family was in the car. Marlon had come from a blue-collar background in Indiana, and Dean McMahon actually asked, where's your family? And said, why don't they come along for the tour? And how much that engagement mattered to Marlon's decision to end up coming here at Alfred University. That's been a key part of our DNA that we need to keep building on. You mentioned Fred Gertz, our Dean of Men, Dean of Students nowadays. Fred was well known for, around Thanksgiving, roaming the streets of Alfred, finding students that didn't have a place to go over Thanksgiving and inviting them to his home for dinner. Marlon has a classmate in Central Ohio who had a bad stuttering problem, and Fred wouldn't let this classmate go. When he tried to escape giving a talk, Fred tracked him down, brought him back in, and said, "You're going to give this talk," and provided coaching. The person ended up becoming the head of a large privately held company out of Central Ohio, Applied Materials. We don't know about the guy who blew up the bathtub with dynamite, but each of us stumbles at times or makes bad choices. So on our way to realizing our promise, we'll have to track down where he ended up and how he realized his promise. So that story I hadn't heard. During his days as a student, Marlon was known as Shorty. That was his nickname. So his legacy, his impact, I think all of us will agree, are lengthy. And the biggest impact is the inspiration he's provided to so many, the opportunity and the inspiration, like Matthew alluded to. So Marlon, we're immensely grateful for all you've done, for how you've made Alfred a better place and motivated others, because for the current generation of faculty, staff, current students, if we see every prospective student as a future Marlon, when they're visiting campus with their family, when maybe they're struggling with a bad decision, this university will realize its promise along with the promise of its students. And to close this out, please join me in thanking our AU Fresh team for serving us dinner tonight. Our IT staff, who put in a lot of time and effort Erin and her team, as well as Mary McAllister and Lisa Sexsmith, who make all the logistics work for events like this, for board meetings. Lisa and Mary were in the office till well after 9 o'clock last night getting last-minute details. We have a board chair that, unlike the president that he works with, has things that occur at the last minute that need to be. And without further ado, and we'll be recognizing him further tomorrow night, but I'd like to invite to the podium Greg Connors, our board chair, and to thank him for his 5 years of service.
So first I want to thank all the board members and your commitment for the time you put in leading into this meeting and the support you've given me for the last 5 years. I want to give one quick story about Marlon that didn't make that's on the cutting room floor. My father passed away when I was 31 years old, and he inspired me to get involved in Alfred. That's the reason why I'm here. Excuse me. After I joined the board, we were talking about a capital campaign. I'm a 34-year-old, 35-year-old kid. I don't know what to do in terms of capital campaigns. I was at Michelle Coleman's house in New York City, and I thought, who else to ask about how to give back than Marlon? But I'm thinking, I'm a 35-year-old young kid who doesn't know anything. Is he going to talk to me? So I met him down in Michelle's basement, and I asked Marlon, I said, how do you know how much to give back in the capital campaign to invest? And I thought Marlon was going to say, you give 10% of your gross wealth, you give 20% of your net wealth. You're going to give me a number. And Marlon gave me the best advice I've ever heard in giving back. He said, Greg, number one, take care of your family. After you take care of your family, you give back whatever you feel is comfortable, because that will be enough. And ever since I heard that, I thought to myself, there's nothing more that I can do to be fulfilled in giving back to someone else. And once I took care of my family, the rest is just left over. So let me give back. And in giving, what I've learned from Marlon's inspiration is that I gave where I was comfortable and that gave a little bit more. Because in the end, helping somebody else is more fulfilling than doing anything for myself and for my kids. And so Marlon, I want to thank you for what you've done for me, what you've done for my family, and what you've done for me. Thank you. With that being said, I know there's many board members here that want to get back to the hotel so they can get an early night's sleep. Because we're up at 8 o'clock in the morning for academic affairs. I don't know who set the schedule, Mary, but whoever it is not good at setting the schedule in the mornings. As Matthew said, I'm not a morning person, so. But I want to thank Mark and I want to thank his team and their preparation. We put a lot on Mark and his team in a very short period of time. You know, we have challenges coming out of COVID, and we're inspired to move forward and to make Alfred a better place. And what the work we're doing here as board members truly is making a difference. It's making a difference today, it's going to make a difference tomorrow, and it's going to make a difference into the future. So I want to thank all of you for sharing in the inspiration that Marlon's provided, as well as the trustees before us, and for the trustees that are going to come after us. I look in this room at the students that are here, and you inspire us. We're here and we do what we do because of you. And I know in 20 years, in 15 years, in 25 years, you in this room are going to be the future Marlon Mills. You're going to be the future Carolyn Putts. And that's what keeps us going. So as you journey on your way out of Alfred, just remember, Alfred is always here for you. And he's always here waiting for you to come back and to give back, to the next generation. So thank you as you go on your journey, as you go off into the world and will make a difference in our world. Alfred is always in your heart. Thank you, and have a great evening.